Welcome to Ghost Hunting, getting started. Thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, welcome and thank you. I'm Tim Ardenwine. I'm a retired paramedic turned ghost hunter and author. Currently, I'm a case manager for War Party Paranormal and an investigator. I'm also a co-founder of Ghostly Experiences, Inc. Now, this week we're going to be talking about EVPs. Now, back in the 1920s, Thomas Edison said to American Scientific, and I'm paraphrasing a little, said, "Our personalities transcend death into a separate realm of reality. And if this is true, then EVPs are our most compelling evidence." Okay? So, what's an EVP? EVP stands for Electro Voice Phenomenon. And let's just put it right out there. Just like any other facet of ghost hunting, EVPs have skeptics. Okay? So don't embellish EVPs, don't fake them, nothing like that, because it'll catch up with you. So the theory of EVPs. Human hearing has a range of 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Now it's thought to be that the EVPs or ghost voices come in the infrasound level below 20 hertz. And I'm always telling you, when I put an EVP up, there's matrixing, hearing matrixing. Well, the term for that is auditory pareidolia. It basically means you'll hear something different than I'll hear. So that's why I always ask for comments about EVPs. Because I like to see maybe if I heard what I heard, or maybe I heard something different. Okay? So that's why I always ask for comments. Now, EVPs are standardized in classes. Class A, Class B, Class C, Class R. Now, Class A EVP is basically a clear EVP that can be confirmed by another person. Class B EVP is actually, you hear it, but you can't, no one really confirms it for you. They're not sure. Class C is, to hear it, you got to put on headphones. You got to really dig down deep to see what you're hearing. And then Class R is an EVP that is listened to in reverse. Now, I've never had a Class R, so I'm not sure how rare they are. Okay. Now, EVPs and investigations. Now, when I first started out, we used cassette recorders, micro cassette recorders. I actually know some groups who actually worked with reel-to-reel recorders. Okay. Now, 99% of the groups today use digital recorders. There are some groups that still will use a micro cassette just to have every tool available to see what they can catch. But the cool thing about digital recorders are they store a lot of evidence and they're easy to download. Okay. Now, when you download it, you want to download it into some software. Now, this is important. You're downloading the software just to analyze, not manipulate. Okay? And the reason, by analyze, I mean like loop it, isolate it. The way you can listen to it over and over. Okay? Now, there might be a time when you might have to amplify it just to hear it better. Okay, if that happens, then disclose that. Say EVP from house A. EVP was amplified to better hear, better analyze. Just, disclose it, put it out there. Now, some of the best software, or most popular software, is Audacity and Wavelab. Now, the cool thing about software is you can analyze, but you can also store it and share it. Remember to always download with WAV or PCM. That way it's easier to share. And when you're sharing, you can share with the client, of course, or download and bring it to them. You can share with your team members, just to, get their opinion to see what they hear. But I know it's audio, but remember, general rule, if you're going to share anything publicly, get permission. Now, the cool thing about the software is you will see spikes or waves. Just depends on the software. Now the spikes and waves is going to tell you the difference between a human voice and infrasound or an EVP. Okay. Now EVPs during the investigation. Okay? Remember, I always say limit it to 2 minutes. Reason for that is a quick recording is a quick playback. And your whole goal of an EVP session is to find some answers or a name or something like that you can build on. So, before you start an EVP session, ask everybody to be quiet. And then also say, listen, if you gotta talk in a normal tone of voice. Because whispering will drive you crazy during the review. You know, like if someone gets touched or they feel a cold spot. If they want to verbalize it, that's fine. But verbalize it in a normal tone. And when you start your EVP session, always document the date, the time, the location, and the area in the location. For example, you know, we're at a house, we're in the kitchen, it's March 3rd at 8:30. Just document it. And try to document it as you move around. That way, if you're like in the bedroom now, and you hear a noise on the recording session, and you remember hearing that noise when you were there, it's easier to remember where you were. Yeah, I was in the bedroom. Yeah, that's right, because you verbalize it. It's just a way to keep a verbal file since you're moving around the house. Okay? Now, I also say be nice. When you're starting your session, introduce yourself. Introduce yourself and anybody in the area with you. Okay? And then it's a goodwill thing. It just lets them know that you're there to help them. And also, if during the session you want to say, what's my name, and you don't get a response, well, you didn't give them your name. Okay? So just introduce yourself. Okay? Now, the best practice for any EVP session is to lay down the recorder. You'll hit record, lay it down. Because body movements will be picked up on the recorder, and that's another thing you got to deal with the review. Okay? You know, when I pick mine up, the only sound I hear is when I click it off. So just lay it down, pick it up. That way, you know, any movements are not recorded and won't confuse you during review. Okay. Another thing to do is verbalize any known sounds. Like if you're in a room doing a session and you hear talking outside, verbalize it. You know, just say talking outside. Or, you know, you're walking around in the dark, you might bang into something. Just verbalize it. I remember when I was first starting out, I carried a little bag, zip bag, full of batteries. I'd, you know, strap it on my belt. But every now and then I'd forget to zip it all the way. And I'd bend down and batteries come tumbling out. And it was always during an EVP session. So I'd say, oh, that was me. Sorry. So just verbalize any noises. It makes your review a lot easier. Okay. Now the key to an EVP session is leave room. You know, leave room for a response. The goal is to get a conversation going. Now, you can't go into an EVP session and ask every question at once. You know, like, hi, I'm Tim, what's your name? Did you die here? Did you work here? No room for response. You're never going to know what they're saying because you're stepping all over it. So just leave room for response, usually 5 to 10 seconds. Like I told you last time we met, just play with your recorder. See what the lag time is. It's real obvious if you're not getting, you know, it's real obvious if you're stepping on the stuff. You know, if you know the answers are coming too tight, it'll be real apparent when you're playing with your recorder. And that way you got your timing. You can work on your timing, 5 to 10 seconds. Now, some investigators like to do something called live EVPs, where they're going to plug in like earbuds or headphones and listen to it live. And that way, if they get something, they might get a clear EVP with a name. And then you can say, ask about John. And then, you know, you can build on with that while you're still recording. All right? Now, if you're recording and it gets quiet all of a sudden. There's some things you can do. You can ask someone to ask questions. You might not be making the contact anymore. Or there might be a second ghost in there who just doesn't like you. So ask someone else to ask questions. And remember when I told you, you got to show them the procedure. You can always just say, listen, if you talk in this red light, I can hear you. Just show them the procedure. Okay? Another thing you might want to do, we try a lot, is if it suddenly gets quiet, leave the room. Put down a couple recorders and leave the room. You might start getting responses because they're not comfortable with the crowd, or the wrong person might be in the room. For example, once we were doing a house and everything was going good. We were getting some EVPs, the meters are going off, all that stuff. Then it just suddenly got quiet. So we laid down a couple recorders and we left. We left the whole house. We went out front for 5 or 10 minutes. So when we came back, we were listening to the playback and we heard some whisperings and things like that. But then we heard a clear EVP that said, they're gone. So it was like party time to them. So just leave the room. See if it works. And then the last one you might want to do is just let them know. Say, listen, we're going to be leaving this area or we're wrapping up. This is your last chance to connect with us. So just say, listen, we're getting out of here. And if you want to connect with us, this is your last chance. That might get them off their duff and start talking. Now, some questions you might want to ask are obvious. What's your name? Are you a man? Are you a woman? Did you work here? Did you live here? Did you die here? Just obvious stuff. But don't forget to ask about the location, the history of the location, that history era I told you about. Like I told you, we do a lot of Prohibition time places. So we'll ask questions relevant to Prohibition times. Ask about events. If there was a fire, did you die in the fire? Fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, homicides, suicides, things like that. Just ask questions that are relevant. All you're trying to do is make a connection. And of course, when you're done, thank them for their time. Leave a goodwill. So that way, they know you're not there to harm them or anything like that. Just thank them for their time. Just be respectful. Okay. Now, another big thing. This happened to me a couple of times. When you're leaving an area and you're going to be walking around with a recorder in your hand, or you're done for the night, put your recorder on hold or lock, because you'd hate to lose some files just by simply pressing the wrong button. So just put your recorder on lock, on hold if you're leaving an area and you're just walking around with a recorder going to another area, or if you're wrapping up for the night. All right? So please do that. It happened to me before a couple of times. It's very frustrating. Now, let's talk about the playback. Now, the playback, remember I told you 2 minutes or less makes for a quicker playback. Remember what I told you, all you're trying to do is trying to get some answers to build on. Okay? Just, you're getting things just to, did you get a name? Wait, was that you, John? Or things like that. So that's why the quick playbacks. Now, people will put down a recorder for an entire investigation. Okay? That could be 4, 5, 6 hours. And, you could catch something, like when the room was empty, maybe something came out, something got active. But you have to listen to all that stuff. And it's very mind-numbing, especially if you're not getting any responses. All you're simply doing is listening to your voice and your team members' voices for all those hours. And you got to remember, the client is waiting for answers. So it's easier to really focus on 1 or 2 minute segments and then another file 1 or 2 minutes, and focus on that to see what you get. Okay? Now, if you're only hearing questions, what's your name? When did you die? But you're not getting any responses at all. It could be 2 things. It could be one, that you're not leaving enough lag time, for responses, especially if you start hearing clicks in the middle, like a possible word or a letter, and then your question comes up. You're stepping all over it. Or another thing is that most recorders nowadays are voice activated. So it simply means that the only voice that the recorder heard was yours, which means you just didn't get nothing. And that happens. Okay? Now, questions and comments. We did get one comment about the EVP last week. I'll give you a little refresher. I did a bar with a family member who owns a bar. And during the day, she said, ask about a Soraya. Soraya happened to be a barmaid that works there. So we got a yes. So we're in the ladies' bathroom, and I said something like, do you want to give Soraya a message? I think it said, I love her. Well, Debbie wrote in and says, I think it said, I love you, which is great. A little romance in the air going on. That's cool. So, I look for your questions and comments. It helps me learn. Maybe I heard something different, and maybe what you heard might pertain more to the history of the location. So send in your comments. If you have questions, comments about this segment, any segment, or basically anything about ghost hunting, send them in. Send them in to ghosthuntinggetingstarted@gmail.com or my Facebook, Longhair Ghost Hunter, SOFL, or send them right into their channel. I look forward to hearing from them. It'd be great. Now, we're not going to do an EVP this week because next week we're going to devote the whole time to analyzing EVPs. I'm going to put up some EVPs. I'm going to show you the process I go through to see if we can understand what they're saying. So that'll be fun. We'll go through a bunch, and then you can kind of pick up on how I do it. And if anybody else has comments how they do it, that would be great. I can always find another way to review EVPs. So remember, Tuesdays, videos air. If we're doing live events, which, I'm in Florida, so the spikes are up. So I look forward to getting back out there and doing a live event. I want to at least get the tools out there and do live demonstrations. So the live events will be announced here or on the Facebook. The videos, like I said, air every Tuesday. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you very much. And please send in your comments. And I look forward to seeing you guys. And if you're out there going ghost hunting, be safe, be careful. Let's find in my mouth. Be safe, be careful, and good luck. And if you want to share some evidence with us, please do. Send it in. Thanks a lot, and you guys have a great day.